Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how top experts sell their ideas, their value, and their services. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want better clients, bigger deals, and higher fees. Are you ready for some fun? Are you ready for a great time? No, wait a second. Are you ready for some joy? You are? Well, boy, are you in luck. I have the awesome and amazing Tesha McCord Poe from Joy Raising. Tesha, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, David. I'm ready for some fun.
So tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey that brought you to the work that you're doing today, and then we'll use that as the jumping off point for our chat.
Okay, I'm going to make this as concise but clear as I can, which is that I've been interested in entrepreneurship since I was a kid. And really, it was because I lived in Chicago on the University of Chicago's campus, surrounded by neighborhoods that were not well resourced. And I would spend after school, sometimes church, other things with kids in those neighborhoods, but not school. And I was really curious about why my schooling at University of Chicago, the day school, was so much better than others, and got curious about income disparity and breaking cycles of poverty. What I came to learn through high school and college, just studying, that through entrepreneurship and education, you could break cycles of poverty in one generation. And so that's how I got interested. I didn't know what I could bring to market, but I've helped to start 2 business incubators, and I've been, have an MBA, and, one of the focuses was entrepreneurship. When I learned that there were more lawyers that were leading Fortune 500 companies than MBAs, I decided to go to law school. So I've really been tracking this journey for a long time in my own way.
Wow. How about that? And tell us, because I know that at our client event, you shared a very deeply moving story or backstory of why your company is called Joy Raising. Can you share that with us?
Absolutely. So it's Joy Raising, there's Joy Raising. And what I do with the company is fundraising and DEI support for nonprofit organizations. My goal with both of those activities that sometimes feel like they're at odds with each other is to raise joy in people, whatever we're doing. But that dash in the middle, to be honest, first came about because the URL was not available without the dash. But then, making lemonade out of that opportunity, I remembered the dash poem. And the dash poem makes us realize that even though when we die, we recognize the year we were born and the year that we pass away, we actually don't choose those years. It's the dash in the middle that we're choosing every day. And so the poem asks, what are you doing with your dash? And so because Joy Raising is my dash, it is my dream come true to actually be an entrepreneur at this point. It just felt quite fitting that would be something to remind me and others who know that dash poem to use their dash.
Absolutely. And by the way, that totally became a catchphrase at our client event, and people are remembering that and repeating that to each other, and literally making every day count, making every client count, making every touch point in your business count, because those are all parts of our dash.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that the folks in our group it would resonate with them, because it's such a leap of faith to bet on yourself and bring something to market that didn't exist before. And every day you've got to be the one to motivate yourself to continue to do it. And so I feel like they're using their dash anyway, but to have some words and some ideas to frame it, I think makes a lot of sense.
Yes, absolutely. Now let's sort of switch into a little bit of the case study part of our interview. The topic that you shared with our client group, our client community, is the pricing upgrade and how to raise your get out of bed number, as we call it. Call it get out of bed number, put on pants number. I'm not working with a client in my minimum way unless that number is at least X, and that's the get out of bed number. So before coming into MBA, how were you thinking of your own pricing? How were you thinking of what number was appropriate? How much would you be negotiating? Kind of give us a little bit of the before coming in
Sure.
snapshot.
Sure. Well, I built this business really out of work that I'd done in small private schools and with nonprofits. So I'm already dealing with folks who have a mission, have more than one bottom line than revenue, and are really mission driven and have limited resources. So that was really driving what I felt I had permission to ask for. The other thing is, most of the people in the organizations that I work with are educators who don't do what they do for money, and often money is demonized. So it can be very tricky and prickly to talk about money in these settings. And so I would ask for what I thought felt palatable, what felt reasonable, but not really thinking about, beyond that. And it was fine. It was a good ask, and people usually said yes to it. Sometimes they said yes a little too quickly, which is a tell. And so, when I came in, that was one of the things on my mind, was I asking the right price.
So tell us a little bit about your initial couple of months, a couple of kind of wake up aha moments when it came to pricing and being compensated fairly for your genius.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that's been so valuable to me with being a part of the program is that the boldness that's collective, but led by you, around asking what you're worth for what you're worth, was an immediate lesson, right? So, and that just got reinforced. And so it was partly hearing what other people were, asking for. It was partly by Coach Ray, speaking specifically about raising your get out of bed price, but also doing a little more inquiry around what my peers were asking for. And so changing my peer group from the people inside the organizations who were not my peers to the people outside who I was actually competing with for the work. And that really helped me. But then also just taking the leap and making the request. And not everyone would say yes to it, but those who did seemed to have more interest and expect more value from what I was doing, which is a good challenge to have, but worth it.
Give us a percentage. You don't need to give us numbers unless you want to, but what percentage of an increase are we talking about from Tesha's old price range to perhaps a new price range, even to the high end?
Yeah. So I doubled it. And then now I put about 40% more on that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it really kind of changes the expectation, right?
Yeah.
And I think that raises my game, and that raises everybody's expectations, which is great.
Hang on. Let's back up the truck. Beep, 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 beep. Listen, I have a brand new sales book out there. You got to get your hands on it. It is awesome. It is amazing. It is fantastic. It is useful, practical, actionable, and a ton of bonuses are waiting for you over at doitselling.com. Grab your copy right now and grab all the bonuses, goodies, companion tools, and downloads that go with the book. You'll love it. I guarantee it.
Tell us a little bit about, because obviously it's easy to say in hindsight, right? Yeah, I raised my price, I doubled it, and then I'm adding 40% and everything is great and everything is flowing and easy and so forth. Was there an element of OMG? What am I doing? This is a terrible idea. I'm pricing myself totally out of this market that knows me and loves me and has hired me before. Walk us through some of that mindset shift that you had to make.
A lot of the people that I work with, I've known, and they know each other. And so the benefit of that is I really do have this market where I've built a brand and it's growing and it's very supportive. At the same time, that can make talking about money a little bit tricky. And so people want you to do them favors, or they just want you to look at this or that. And what I ask myself is, would you ask someone that you didn't know, that you really respected, to get out of bed for the price that you're offering me? No, you wouldn't. And so there's a saying, teach people how to treat you. And that's what I needed to do. And there's no malintent. It's just like you're training the market around what you're worth. And I realized that if I didn't do it now, it was going to be harder to do it in the future because I would be known for what I had charged. The other thing was, I also realized that there are some clients that can't afford what I'm doing. They maybe not now, maybe they have to wait till the next budget cycle, or maybe there are other ways that we can, figure out how to work together. But the fact that they didn't have the budget was not my issue.
Amen. Times 10.
Right.
So as far as turning people away, which we're just talking about right here, was there some gut level emotional response to, I really should say yes, but my heart is saying yes, my head is saying no? And then talk about how you enforce that sort of self-respect boundary in your own world when it's you and the prospect who can no longer afford you.
I had an arts organization say, we really didn't. I messed this up because I didn't negotiate. We had an existing relationship. I didn't negotiate the price for the new thing they were asking for. And so I thought they would just, be willing to do what I thought was fair, way below. And they said, well, our people don't make nearly that much. And I said, well, but I do make that much with other organizations. And they said, well, if you can get it, go get it. And I said, well, that's what I'm going to do. And so we politely, had to part ways after a very good engagement. But, at the end of the day, I had to think about my time. And even if it wasn't an apples to apples, I'll be working for another client. Even if I'm actually in my bed resting, that is worth something. And so it's really thinking about, well, what is my time worth? And remember, we talked about my friend Dan, who is working in Hollywood, and he was offering or auctioning off his services. And I think his $2,500 for 30 minutes, and the idea there is like, there's something that is so valuable that you'd be willing to invest in that. That's an investment. That's not entertainment. That's an investment. And just thinking about how much that reflects his confidence in what he can provide. I think that was a really big switch for me. Like, trust what you're doing. Trust that it is providing value. And the more clients you have, the more you see that they'll parrot back to you what they're getting out of it. And so that builds the confidence as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That connection between the inner confidence and then the fee, the number that comes out of your mouth, or even the new range of numbers that comes out of your mouth, really, really big part of the success story. So let's get back to, because this is also funny, because this is where you help your clients. You help your clients with fundraising. You help your clients with strategy, including financial strategy. So if you show up on their horizon with this broke, low fee mindset, it's almost like there's an integrity issue, right? I'm totally broke around my fees and what I'm going to charge you, but I'm going to help you elevate your financial game. Trust me. It's like the old joke, Tesha, about the life coach drives up to the client's house in like a 25-year-old beat up car. It's all rusty. It hasn't been washed in 3 years. And the client's peering through the curtains and says, "This is my life coach? Wow, that's not the life I want. That is not the life I want, driving that kind of car." So do you feel a new sense of alignment being a premium resource to clients who want to position themselves as a premium resource?
Absolutely. And it's really interesting because I train people to ask for gifts that sometimes are worth more than their house, right? And so to be able to have the confidence and humility to do that is no small thing. And so the reason why we're able to do that is because we believe that the value that will come from that gift is worth it. And so again, making that correlation, the value that will come from investing in my services is worth it. So I think there was a little fear, like, can I guarantee the value? And just gaining confidence around that. Yeah, for sure.
Well, and I want to get back to the work of your work, but I'm going to read right from the website as it relates to these financial issues. Strategic planning for advancement. Advancement is another word for generating revenue. Capital campaign council. Implementing a major giving program. Endowment building. Rock solid annual giving. Board volunteer development is something else. Shifting to an indexed tuition model, which I guess is in the higher ed world. advancement, team management support, and alumni engagement, which is, again, alumni engagement, probably is a financial component to that.
Yeah.
So under the fundraising part of what you do, almost everything will benefit from your own inner confidence about, I've got value, I'm going to be a force multiplier in your organization, and the investment is going to come back to you 5x, 10x, etc. That confidence and certainty, like we were talking about your friend Dan for the $2,500 auction item. How has that level of confidence spilled over into some other areas of your business day to day?
Well, one of the things that I do, in addition to the counseling kinds of strategic work that you described, I have a conference that I do once a year in June. And a part of that conference is what it's called the Summit. We have the Summit Fellows, and that allows people who are in small organizations who don't have the professional development budget to come. And I think that's just right in line with our brand and what we're trying to accomplish. Well, I need sponsors to help us do that. So it's really crept over to the sponsors that we have, being able to say to sponsors, do something that's worth it. It's not just about you, it's about providing opportunities for others as well. And so being bold about that. I think in general, this whole process of business development and closing deals has allowed me to be more clear and more bold, not only in my business, but in general, in a way where I'm thinking about what value am I bringing, and then what am I getting back? That exchange. It's not so transactional that you're looking for it to be even and exact at every moment, but you want it to be fair, and you don't want to waste people's time nor have your time wasted. I have so much more expectation around how my time is used once I started this. I think, when you're salaried and the check is going to come every 2 weeks, whether that meeting happened or it didn't, or whether, it's just there's a different energy around the work that you do and how you spend that time and who you spend it with.
Yes.
I've found that some relationships are harder to have, some friendships are harder to have because of that changed mentality. I mean, I'm sure you hear that a lot, but it wasn't something that I really planned for, but I do see it happening.
Yes. Well, it's like having a new circle of colleagues and peers and role models that when you have changed so profoundly, both inside and outside, at least professionally, but also personally, your peer group is going to change. Your friend group is going to change. The way that people interact with you is going to change. And, that's all to the good, but it's an adjustment for sure. And having to say goodbye to some relationships that are no longer serving you, that might be toxic, or they don't believe in what you're doing, or they're so stuck in the mindset of the previous context of your relationship, they can't really root for you and be happy for you and support you in this new context that you're operating in now. Those ties, they're difficult, they're sometimes painful to cut. But the new relationships can be so nurturing and so empowering and so inspiring that you're just kind of naturally gravitating towards that new peer group and that new friend group.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about all the different ways that you serve your clients, because we talked about the fundraising sphere. We have not yet talked about the diversity, equity, inclusion sphere. We have not talked about your strategic overall advisory offerings. So what's on the menu? What are all the different ways that clients can engage you?
Yeah, I feel so fortunate that I've built a career and now a business that allows me to share my gifts and what I love to do in different ways. So different organizations come to me. What I need some help on is building my own pipeline rather than being more reactionary to what comes my way. And we figure out, okay, where are you? What do you need? Sometimes it's, I've got an executive who needs some support, not sure how they're acclimating to the expectations of the organization. So I'll come in and support them. I have a board, well-meaning volunteers, because I work with nonprofits. So they're volunteers, well-meaning, but not steeped in the expertise that we need. How do we keep them focused? So I'll work with them. And that's whether it's around fundraising or whether it's around DEI. With DEI, we're really thinking about, how do we make these organizations that people want to be a part of for a really long time and they feel like they truly belong? And sometimes that's around the systems that are in place. Sometimes that's around the people that are there. Sometimes that's around how we're spending our money, what we're willing to invest in. And so we figure that out. With a big capital campaign, they say, okay, we need a new building. We need $75 million for this new building. How are we going to get there? And so we really go through the work of figuring out who supported you in the past, who's in your community now. How can we inspire them to do something and be a part of something that's really going to impact? Mostly I'm dealing with schools on those kind of projects. So impact generations of students. And that's really exciting to be able to be a part of these different organizations that want to do something special.
That is so powerful. And I think there is definitely I'm going to call it marketing because I'm biased, but there's a marketing, messaging, positioning component to so much of your work, whether it's around fundraising, whether it's around leadership, whether it's around leadership strategy and communication, whether it's around diversity, equity, inclusion. So talk to us a little bit about how did you develop your inspired communication muscles, where you can look at an organization, you can look at a school, and you can say, let's start telling this kind of story. Let's start positioning or messaging the campaign under this kind of legacy type of messaging. How did that come to you, and how do you work that muscle?
Well, I think it's because I stay curious. I really like people. I really like being a part of something that doesn't yet exist. And I really love collaborating and bringing out the best of people. I have been told I ask great questions and that I'm a great listener. And so that allows me to hear what the thing is, right? What's at the core of things. And I keep us focused on that. So I can listen, understand, analyze, pull it together, and then say, okay, I think this is what matters most. How do we make that happen? And I'm very the raising part of the Joy Raising name is really because as a consultant, I want to make sure something happens because we spent time together. And so I'm always very action oriented and bringing other people along. So what I ask a lot is, what are you going to do in the next 30 to 90 days? And how do you want to be held accountable for it? So there's no one sitting in the room who thinks that they are not responsible or a part of what's happening, even if they have different roles in what's happening. And so I think that really helps me to get to the core of what organizations actually need and not just what they want.
Yes, I know. Terrific episode here, but have you seen our latest web training? Oh my goodness, pop over there right now, or as soon as you're done listening to this episode, it's doitmarketing.com/webinar. See you over there. Back to the good stuff.
Can you share one or two kind of rock star client success stories of something that you're either especially proud of or that seemed really difficult and daunting, but you had an amazing breakthrough with the client team? Or what do you have in that category? Just one or two kind of fun success stories that are your favorites.
So I can think of a couple. One of them I'll talk about DEI. The other will be a fundraising one. So a DEI one, this was with a children's musical theater group. And this was in the wake of the George Floyd, uprising, all that. And they were getting feedback that former participants were feeling like they had, their experiences were problematic in some ways. And so the theater group needed to respond. So they reached out, did an RFP. I won the gig, and I started looking around. And the thing about the theater group that's hard is they do musicals, older musicals that can often be problematic when you put them in the current setting. But the other thing they do is that they promise that they will cast every kid who auditions. So that is such an inclusive way of going about your business. So what I said to them is you've got the bones of being really good at this. What you don't yet have is the language, the real vision for it, and the steps to get there. And so over time, we built that. One of the best takeaways was that we're able to figure out and then implement that there was a deaf community that would have loved being at the musicals, but we didn't have signers. And so they now they have signers, and they're so good. There were times when I was watching the signers instead of the show. They were just so good at what they were doing and why they were doing it. And that was a small example of many working with them where it was just something that was not hard to implement, but we needed to do the work to figure out how important it was to have as a part of their work. The other one that I'll share, it's around fundraising, and as the school in San Francisco, it's just K-8. So, a lot of those families are relatively new to their wealth. And so these were asking them for some of the biggest gifts they've ever given. But also, this is a school that's very intentional about being inclusive. And so that every member of the community, even if they receive some kind of scholarship to come, that they should feel like it's their school and they deserve the right to be there. And if they have things that go wrong, they have the right to ask. And so it's a dichotomy because they raised, I think it was 70 something million dollars. So at the tail end of that, I was not a part in raising that money. But at the tail end of that, they said, we've now raised all this money. There's going to be this perception that that's what we do and that's what we care about. But we want people to understand that raising money is a part of what we do. And the reason why we do it is actually really rooted in something beautiful. And so we created what we call a philanthropy mission statement, where we said, well, philanthropy, the Greek word is rooted in loving people. So we raise money because we care about people. And we built this beautiful statement that really tells why and how it's everyone's work to do it, but everyone is appreciated. After doing that, they told me that after school one day, a girl and her mother came into the head's office. They'd already raised the money, most of the money. But they came in and they said, we have our gift for the capital campaign. Single mom and the girl, young, probably second grade, something like that. She had her piggy bank. So the mom had worked extra shifts to make her donation, and the girl had saved money in her piggy bank to go towards this $70 million campaign. And why that's so meaningful to me is because it proved that they had done the work to really figure out how to speak to everyone in that organization to say, you matter. What you have matters. Your willingness to give it is important. And so those are two of my favorite stories.
Wow. So powerful. Holy smokes. That is really, really amazing. Well, tell us a little bit about if people want to get in touch with you, they want to tap into your brilliance and your expertise. Where are some places they should go? We're going to put some links in the show notes here. Tell us about, is it website? Is it LinkedIn? Where else can we send people to get more Tesha brilliance?
Yeah, LinkedIn, Instagram, and my website for sure. And I love being in touch with folks. And even if they don't work in nonprofit, oftentimes they volunteer in nonprofit. I just had a conversation yesterday with a friend. He's been on a board for a while, and he's got this executive director who's kind of stuck. And so we were talking about how to get him unstuck from what he's been doing. So it can be pretty relevant. I'm very interested in relationship-driven fundraising. And so that sometimes is a shift for people who, think of popcorn sales as fundraising and, think of it a little bit beyond that. So I always ask, have we earned the right to make this ask of this gift?
Yeah, really, really strong frame to put around what is going on there. Let me ask you a final question as we're landing the plane here. If folks were to take one central idea from our conversation today about value, about raising your get out of bed number, around mission-driven, holistic, helping an organization fulfill their mission, we covered a lot of ground here. What would you hope that our one big takeaway for listeners would be?
I would hope that as you think about all of that you would consider your intentions, that you're not just chasing money or people or things or prestige, but you consider your intentions and then trust your intentions. Decided why you want to do this, and it is meaningful to you. Trust that and play it out. Don't overthink it, right? Don't let other people squash it. Trust yourself.
Wow, so powerful. Well, I'm going to add little asterisk on that. Not only don't overthink it, which was brilliant advice, but don't undervalue it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Don't undervalue it. So Tesha McCord Poe, you are an amazing rock star. Thank you for being on with us. I appreciate you so much.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.